Pieces and brothers, this is Eljeer, coming to you live from the Boogie Down Bronx. Just finished watching All Eyes on Me, the biopic on Tupac Shakur. It's a very, very interesting film, I have to say. It certainly covers the key moments of his short life, 25 years. And this last year, September 13th, 2016, many of us commemorated the 20th anniversary of his death. Certainly Tupac, I think, defined for an entire generation in the of the post Black Power era of a generation that felt the effects of a defeat of the movement, and certainly in the film you get the sense of the really the counter-revolution that takes place, definitely through the eyes in the story of his mom, Afeni Shakur, a member of the Black Panther Party, member of the Black Panther Party New York 21, that stood trial on conspiracy charges and other charges. And from the get-go, he is clearly born in prison, if we think about that. 2 months after Afeni's acquittal and release from prison, he's born. The film, I think, in many ways allows a new generation to discover Tupac, but I think the essence of Tupac is not fully revealed. There has been some controversy about the film. Certainly, on one side, the filmmakers and the battle with the estate of Tupac Shakur and now Afeni Shakur, who died several months ago, last year. Also, 50 Cent came out against the film as well, and I take these points even more seriously than 50 Cent, and that's Jada Pinkett Smith, who's very close to Tupac, and has indicated that the scenes to which she is depicted in are scenes that did not take place concretely. And certainly the part where he reads a poem to her, she states that she's never seen it. She only saw it after it was released in his book of poetry. For me, it's a very important film, and Tupac is a very important figure, because I had the great honor to be in the classroom with his uncle, Professor Kawando Kinshasa, who taught at John Jay College for a number of years, and he was advisor to the organization I had belonged to, Organization of Black Students at John Jay College for Criminal Justice. And so that was Tupac's uncle. And so Tupac matters to me in many ways, and also I'm only 3 years younger than him, in fact. Tupac, his legacy still stands because of the contradictions that he represented in U.S. society. Certainly a person who had the possibilities of being a profound leader in the community, did a lot of important work, which is not highlighted too often by the corporate media. And in the film, you do get depictions of that. You get elements of that. But also, of course, you get the elements of the misogyny and the sexism of Tupac's lyrics, of the various women. But you also don't get the fullness of his love for his mother, which is very important, I thought. It was depicted in the film, but not to the extent that I would have wished more of that, actually. His relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith, which really covers about 4 scenes throughout the whole film. There's also one other key individual in his life, Lee Steinberg, who was a fellow poet, an artist, that played a very significant role in his development and his partnership, particularly as his career began to take off. She played a very important role. She has basically one scene in the film. Um, the gentleman that plays Tupac has a striking resemblance to Tupac, which is very amazing. He has the mannerisms. He has a lot of the style and the approach of Tupac. And I do think that the early part of the film, the way it opens up, him talking to an interviewer while he was in prison for a rape charge, that he served time, about 8 months in New York State. And this is the first time, in fact, you can YouTube the Tupac Shakur jailhouse interviews, which is very interesting. Actually, I definitely urge people to take a look at that. This is the first time that Tupac, in many ways, is sober. He's clear-headed. He speaks very articulate, as he always did, but even more so in these interviews. And it begins from that standpoint. He's kind of telling his story. So that's the first half of the film. And certainly the second half of the film is dominated after his release from prison through what many would call a status of indentured servitude to notorious Suge Knight and Death Row Records. And I think this is a very dark period for Tupac. We don't get the fullness of that. That's another negative about the film. We don't get the fullness of that period after Tupac is released. And I think in many ways Tupac is playing a role with Death Row. He becomes a caricature of himself. I think he becomes lost within himself. And this is where the question of being a leader and being a follower really takes root. And in many ways, because Suge Knight and Death Row was able to get him out of prison, because certainly Tupac could not withstand the life of being a prisoner, at the age of 23, 24 years old. He had to, in many ways, pimp himself to Death Row Records, and also fuel what would be a very bloody East Coast, West Coast, corporate media driven battle that took the life ultimately of Tupac. And then several months later, March 10th or 9th, 1997, the life of Biggie Smalls. The film, definitely, I would encourage people to take a look at and to examine, but I definitely urge folks to look up Tupac online, look at the various books on his life, and he was able to be documented a lot of interviews that he did. I urge also folks to take a look at the book on Fendi Shakur, co-written by Jasmine Guy, actually from the show A Different World. It's a very good biography. So that's my review. I will be writing more about the film in the coming days. But I think overall, it's a film that I would ask people to check out, but also look at various other sources and look at the film in a more critical manner. And I think we don't get the totality of what Tupac really represented politically, what the potential was there for a type of leadership, his charisma, his understanding of power, of empire in many ways. And that's why he was attacked, I think, by the various forces of capitalism and the institutions. But the problem is that he was of a generation that became leaderless and didn't have the type of organizations that could move him in a certain direction. So look out for the written form of my review of All Eyes on Me. Talk to you soon. Peace.